What up, y'all? We have another lawsuit in the Diddy saga. So I'm going to break down what's going on in this new lawsuit, try to make it as easy and digestible as possible for you guys. First, I want to say Diddy is innocent until proven guilty, right? We got to give him the benefit of the doubt. The man who's suing Diddy, his name is Lil Rod. Diddy said the man is a liar. Do not believe nothing. Diddy said,
Well, it could have been a scheme that Todd set up for him to come to you with the bullshit.
now I want to say, I don't believe everything that's in this lawsuit, but there are some questionable things that's mentioned in this paperwork. Now, one of my little lawyer buddies shot me the documents. It's 73 pages, so I read them all, and it's some weird little things going on, okay? So this case is about music producer Rodney Jones, a.k.a. Lil Rod, and it's against Diddy, Love Records, Motown, Universal. All of these corporations, Lil Rod is saying, has placed him in some compromising situations since he's been attached to Diddy. So Lil Rod is a self-proclaimed music prodigy. He says he's also a Christian. He's worked with the Georgia Mass Choir, the Clark Sisters, a lot of different little religious acts, okay? He said back in 2022, Puff Daddy called him up and said, hey, I want you to work on this project with me. I want you to produce. So over the past few days, if you guys have seen the headlines, we've seen some of these salacious allegations with Stevie J and Young Miami. But here is what sticks out to me most in the lawsuit. It's the very first accusation. All right, so here's the story. Around August and September of 2022, Lil Rod packed up all his things, moved in with Diddy to essentially become an in-house producer. And you know what? That's pretty normal to me. Sometimes when artists are getting ready to put a project out, they will get a group of people around them and they'll lock in. So I've seen that happen before. He said one of the first times they met up, Diddy pretty much flew him out to LA and they were involved with the writers camp at a studio. So it essentially was Puffy, Justin's homeboy G, Lil Rod, and a bunch of other writers. They're just in there, they're working, they're cooking up ideas, they're getting the project going. So Lil Rod said Puffy, Justin, and Justin's homeboy G, they go into the bathroom, an altercation happens, and a pow goes off. Now, Lil Rod said he's near the bathroom as this is all taking place, and he's immediately traumatized, and he's just frozen. He said when the bathroom door opens, Puff Daddy and Justin come out the bathroom, and he sees G bent over in the fetal position, and he's suffering from a wound, okay? So he's losing some fluids. Lil Rod says he goes to try to help G up, and there is blood everywhere in the bathroom. There's also pictures of this scene, but I'm not gonna, show them on my page because I don't want to get shadow banned, right? But all the photos are included in the lawsuit. He said the ambulance gets called. They eventually get the guy from the bathroom to the front door, and he's gone to the hospital. Puff Daddy comes back in and allegedly tells everybody, hey, if anybody asks y'all, say it was a drive-by. All right, so I want to stop here because this is the most important part of the lawsuit to me, because this may be considered a breach of duty. Puff Daddy, as a CEO, as an employer, has a duty to protect those people involved in that writers camp. And you allegedly put those people in harm's way when there was a pulled out. And everybody who said Megan Thee Stallion was wild for lying to the police and not telling the truth when Tory Lanez injured her, you see how frequent this happens in Hollywood or even in the hood where maybe someone gets injured and they just I'm not going to snitch, I ain't going to tell. So we now have another story of someone possibly being injured, not telling the police the truth, and there's a lie generated around the whole circumstance of it all. And wasn't Diddy involved with some type of similar situation with Sean when there was a weapon involved? So you now have Lil Rod in a circumstance where he has been involved with cleaning up someone who's been injured, but has been essentially forced by Puff Daddy and everybody there to tell a lie and not tell the truth of what happened that night. Now, Lil Rod is saying he has spoke to other people there who was involved and that they were too afraid to speak out, but if they're subpoenaed, they're willing to come to court and corroborate his story. I don't know how true that is. People be flip-flopping, but that's what's in the lawsuit. To me, he didn't even have to include the rest of the things in this case, because this information right here, this whole incident, is enough to close this case civilly. Because you, Sean Combs, as a CEO, as an employer, you essentially put your employee or contract worker in a dangerous situation, which has caused trauma, PTSD, depression, insomnia, and all of that is enough to sue and win. Listen, I've seen people win lawsuits for less. This is just the first part of the suit. It's crazy. And if you think about it, remember, this happened in September of 2022. Did we ever see Puff Daddy come out and say, hey, my son's homeboy was injured in a drive-by shooting. We need to stop the gang violence. We need to find the perpetrators of what happened. We never heard anything. Sean or Justin never came out and said, pray for my homeboy. Surprising, the boy did live. He didn't pass away. But my point is, this was reported in the news, but it was reported as a drive-by. So if it really was a drive-by, why have we not heard from anyone involved, especially Puff Daddy, saying, hey, I had my employees at a writer's camp and someone was injured by a drive-by? You know why we probably haven't heard from Diddy? Is because maybe, allegedly, it was not a drive-by. I ain't saying you're guilty, Diddy. All I'm saying is the way these dots are lining up, it ain't looking too good, my brother. Now, the next part of the lawsuit is with Stevie J. So, Lil Rod stated that Puff Daddy showed him a home video of the producer Stevie J and another man doing some things. Now, he submitted some screenshots of the video, but we have since found that those screenshots are actually not of Stevie J. It's from an adult entertainer. The guy has essentially came out and said, hey, that ain't Stevie J. That's me in those screenshots. But Lil Rod is essentially saying, hey, Puff Daddy kind of coerced me into watching this video to say, hey, this is what everybody does. So he's saying Puff Daddy was essentially trying to groom him into having a guy-on-guy situation. That's just what the lawsuit says. Now, let's fast forward to Thanksgiving of 2022. You have Lil Rod, Puff Daddy, Young Miami, and Young Miami's cousin, and some other people. They're all chilling at Puffy's house for the holidays. Lil Rod is stating that Young Miami's cousin tried to come on to him in front of everybody, and he just wasn't down with that. So he felt like that situation was harmful to him. He's thinking that Puff Daddy had Young Miami, bring the girl over to see if she can get some action out of Lil Rod. He felt like it was a setup for one of those freak-off sessions. He also said that same night, Diddy tried to pressure him into doing a little snow, if you know what I mean. Following this situation, Lil Rod has stated that Puff Daddy has transported him from California to New York to Florida to the Virgin Islands, and he was essentially pressured to bring women to Puff Daddy. And sometimes Diddy would try to force those women onto Lil Rod, and Lil Rod said he just was not down for those activities. So that's where the harassment accusations are coming in at. He also says one night he believes that something was slipped in his drink because he woke up, undressed, dizzy, and he was in the bed with Puff Daddy and two other women. Now, he also mentioned not only did he have to go out and get women, but sometimes Puff Daddy had his son, Justin, out trying to find girls as well. And sometimes some of those girls were under the age of 18. That's what's in the lawsuit, allegedly. There was another situation that he said Puff Daddy pretty much bought Cuba Gooding Jr. around. He pretty much took them over to this secluded studio type area, and he walked away, left him alone with Cuba. And he said Cuba was getting a little bit too handsy with him. Lil Rod also included some pictures. He said Cuba was touching his legs, touching his back, touching his thighs. That was another situation of harassment that he felt uncomfortable with. He's pretty much trying to paint the picture that, Diddy, you were my employer and you kept bringing these people around to harass me. He also said at some of these freak-offs or Diddy parties, Diddy would have certain designated bottles of alcohol. And those bottles of alcohol would be, just for the women or for the people who he wanted to kind of wrong, because those bottles would be full of X as well as a little bit of yayo. All right, so maybe I'm a little bit too disconnected from the streets. And I know that sometimes X might have a little snow in it. But Lil Rod said there's this new product out called Tucci, And that's a half and half mix of eggs and yayo. Let me tell you something. Do you know how much sleep you will lose on the combination of drugs he just mentioned? Puff Daddy, you are too old to be doing that. Bro, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. They're essentially accusing Diddy of RICO, which, if y'all have been following me, if you've watched any of my Diddy videos, I told y'all a long time ago, they are gonna try to build a RICO case against him. Essentially because there's accusations of trafficking. We've heard that in the Cassie lawsuit. We've heard that in the lawsuit of the two other ladies that's came out. And now you have Lil Rod throwing that word around. So you have trafficking. There's weapons involved. There's alcohol and drugs involved. And Diddy is essentially the head of this organization. And he has minions going out getting all these things for him. This lawsuit is 73 pages. I may go into details on another video where we actually kind of read it line by line, but yo, it is crazy. And you know what? This may have never made it to court if Diddy didn't just pay this man. This is where the explosion is coming from. We've all heard the rumors of Puff Daddy being a little shiesty businessman. Well, Lil Rod feels like he wasn't fairly compensated for the trauma that he had to endure. And Puffy didn't work out a solid deal when it came to his publishings and royalties on the album that he worked on. And the reason Lil Rod has so many videos, he has so many pictures is because he said he essentially lived with Puff Daddy for an extended period of time, and Puff Daddy wanted him to record and take pictures of everything. So this lawsuit is filled with photos. You know what? I don't know how this is going to play out. Like I said, I don't believe everything in the lawsuit, but there are some things in here that is, if he can get some people to back some stuff up, this may not go well, especially because when you put things like this in front of a jury, civil cases are easy to win. That's why he settled with Cassie, because Cassie had so much information, so many details. He was like, yo, I don't want this to come out. Let me get her out of the way. But when you got her out of the way, you've now opened yourself up to everybody else that you may have done wrong. And people are going to keep coming out of the woodworks. This isn't the first man. There's going to be more men to come. Diddy right now has 5 civil cases against him, and they all sounded like they all have very similar details. It's really sounding like one of these R. Kelly RICO cases. This stuff is really damaging. So, what do y'all think? Do y'all believe Lil Rod? Or do you think, hey, Puff Daddy's innocent, everybody's just out to take him down? Leave your comments below. Peace.